Or Scar on YouTube. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about one tip that I have that really allows you to make more positive changes in your life in a lot more of a passive manner. So a lot of the time when it comes to building healthier habits, I find that the biggest issue is literally just like a lack of information. Personally, I find the system that works the best for me is the more information that I have available to me as to why something might be good or as to what something is, the more comfortable I feel with whatever that thing is, or the more willing I am to make certain changes. So, perfect example. Once you instill the awareness that certain foods are junk foods and certain foods aren't, when you start breaking down the ingredients and the labels and then you see what's in this and then what's in that, the more that you know about the food, the harder it is to settle for that quality, especially once you've tasted better quality. Because once you've tasted that better quality and your body's adjusted to it, what happens is it becomes very hard to go back to eating the lower quality food because you kind of establish a new baseline for yourself. And I realized this when I was vegan for a year, because when I was vegan for a year, it was like the ultimate palate cleanse. Like I literally didn't eat candy. I already didn't eat sweets that much, and I already didn't drink juice, but or like soda. I only drank water and tea, and I still do. But I still liked Reese's and cookies. Like I love chocolate chip cookies. Like I even when I was vegan, I never stopped eating chocolate chip cookies. Like I tried the vegan ones, them shits did not hit. But long story short, I was just eating purely plant based. Like at first, I was buying like a lot of plant based, like Impossible Burger, or like plant based chicken. But like that's, in my opinion, at the point into which you're opting for those options, I feel like you're better off either eating whole plant foods or just eating animals. At the point in which you're eating like the synthetic, like lab grown meat and stuff like that, just because I personally ran into too many health complications eating something like that consistently and trying to use it to sustain myself, that I don't really see it working well for people in the long run. I definitely feel like there's healthier alternatives for that pocket, but I digress. So once I kind of got acclimated to eating healthier and I just was always eating these fruits, vegetables, like rice, quinoa. There were so many vegetables that I had never tried before in my life that I was eating. And this all became a thing to where it was almost second nature after a while. I just kept doing it. So like when I first started, I just started by taking out like milk. Then after I took out milk, I took out what I take out. I think I took out like red meat, and then I took out chicken, and I just one day I just cold turkey. I just like jumped in. But to get to that point, what I did and the tip that I want to provide is I basically inched myself into the pool, to the deep end. Like it's the boiling frog, but intentionally. So you intentionally put yourself in warm water and then you let it heat up. So you're intentionally putting yourself in the direction of something more positive, and then you're just letting the compound effect of it build up to where every day, small rep, small rep, small rep, small rep. And then before you know it, your body gets so used to it, your mind gets so used to it, it becomes so habitual that doing something more doesn't seem like that big of a deal anymore. You're just like, oh yeah, like, I mean, I already fuck with all this healthy stuff. So, in being vegan for that period of time and then coming off, I remember I'd have like ridiculous cravings. Like, I wanted a cheeseburger, I wanted ribs, I wanted everything. Steak, like, but every time that I would break being vegan, because I think I broke being vegan like once at a year mark, and then like I just kept going on and off for like quarters at a time, and I just was like, all right, this is not sustainable anymore. But I'd always break my vegan, I guess you could say, fast with McDonald's or some shit like that. And every time, without a doubt, right after I'd get sick. Like I'd either get physically sick in terms of like a head cold or whatever, or I'd get like sick in the stomach to where it makes it hard to just function. Like I felt groggy and tired after sleeping, and like I'd feel heavier and just like it became so much harder to do the bad thing because I just put so much distance between myself and it by just constantly doing something small but positive. And you can do the same thing with anything else. You can do it with working, because I literally use it. I use this simple ass method for everything. It's just doing a small thing very consistently for a long period of time. And you'll never burn out because it's literally just such a small thing. It's such a small change that it's impossible to burn out, but you end up making larger, more sustainable changes long term. So another example of this would be like if you're trying to listen to music that's more positive, and the reason I say music that's more positive is just because like once you get to a certain point where you really realize that your mind is a constant recorder, just taking in everything that's going on. That's why you'll see a lot of individuals say they don't watch the news. It's not because they don't want to be informed about what's going on in the world. It's more so because they understand that if they just wake up every single day and consume all the bad things that are going on, it's going to be increasingly harder to focus on the fact that there is still good shit going on. Or it just becomes very hard to get into a positive headspace. So when you listen to music that's more positive, it might sound a little bit more corny, or it might sound a bit distinct from what you're used to. But the reality is it's setting that little seed of like, oh yeah, you can be optimistic. Like, yeah, maybe this person does like you. Maybe when you walk into this room, people accept you for who you are instead of judging you. Maybe you don't have to be aggressive today. Maybe you don't have to pop off on him before he pops off on you. Maybe you don't like maybe you don't have to objectify this woman in this manner. Maybe y'all can actually just, kick it and, watch Adventure Time as opposed to just having mindless sex and then kicking her out the crib. Like, so many things change. It's like, oh, do I even want these $1,000 jeans? Do I want? You start to think differently, but it's a small change. And I'm not saying listen to nonstop, like, positive music and like country and like gospel, and like you actually have to take a little bit of effort, which is the same thing with any other part of this method in terms of applying it to anything else. You have to do the initial little bit of effort of finding something that's actually worth pursuing. If you don't have anything that's actually worth pursuing in your mind, you're not gonna have cultivate enough interest to actually build the momentum of the task. So you have to have interest in it. You have to be like, okay, this is something I could see myself doing. And if you can see yourself doing it, then you just make those small changes by first finding a good base, like finding something to pick from, and then say, all right, cool. This is the foundation of this concept. If I just keep repeating this foundational concept in a small manner every single day for like 30 days, eventually I'll just be really good at this skill. Or eventually I'll just be really good at anything. And it's a lot less rewarding on the front end, which is why it's an approach that I feel like it's a pretty obvious approach, but it's not at the same time, just because of, I feel like in the climate we live in, everything is so microwave that having a methodology that's literally just doing the bare minimum realistically every day with a little bit more effort than last time, but it doesn't really feel like a little bit more because you're so used to that stimulus. It's like if you go to the gym and you train for, like, let's say you're trying to get in better shape and you train for like, you're like, oh yes, I'm about to start going to the gym, I'm gonna get in great shape, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And this is where managing expectations comes into play. Like, if you come in with that energy, don't get me wrong, it's great. That intensity is fire, bro. Like, I'm not even saying that to patronize, like, it's dead fire that you have that energy. But at the same time, it's just like firebending. If you ever seen Avatar, when you're sitting here, it's like, oh, I'm powerful, I'm gonna and you just start letting that fire kind of grow out of control, as opposed to kind of like, oh shit, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, oh wow, I feel like I could. All right, let me capture that, and now let me use that energy and kind of focus it, almost like a fine line or a beam, onto the thing that you want to do. And it's not like you're gonna blow it up right away, which that intensity, that focus onto that goal, right? And then you're just thinking, okay, how can I do this in the most sustainable way possible? So that way, once I achieve this, I can keep it. A lot of people set their goals with failing to expect that they'll actually achieve them. So when you set your goals, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. And it's like, okay, well, what does that look like? if you don't really know what it looks like to achieve the thing that you want to achieve, it's going to be harder to do it because you can't really bring it to the front of your mind because you literally just don't see it happening. It's like, oh, I'm going to be a professional fighter. It's like, okay, cool. How? A lot of people are like, I want to get in better shape. It's like, how? It's like, oh, I'm just going to work out really hard. And it's like, okay, well, what happens after that? You're going to have 1 3-hour session, or you might do that for a week, 2 weeks. For the best and baddest of you, probably 4, 3. You'll get in pretty good shape, depending on how long you did that for. Whether it's like 1 week to 4 weeks. 1 week, you're probably not, you'll make a change, but not that much of a change. Like, you'll make like a slight change maybe. But like, let's say you do that. Well, 3 hours a day, every day for 4 weeks, you'd probably come out really impressive. But what comes after that is, how long can you sustain that, actually? Because you're still human. You still have like an internal clock. You still have a circadian rhythm. Like, you literally have certain systems in play that force you to rest. And that force you to not overexert yourself. Like, your body doesn't trust you enough to just let you have full control. So eventually you reach a point where you kind of burn out. And then you take, I'm going to take a week off the gym. I've been working on it. And it's like 1 week turns into 2. It's like, oh, you look in the mirror. It's like, I'm still in great fucking shape. I don't need to work. Then it turns into 3. And then you kind of develop this system where it's like, you're in really good position. You're peak, then you're trash. Then you're peak, then you're trash. Then you're peak, then you're trash. But if you had just dialed back the intensity a little bit, you'd be peak, right? And then you'd be trash. Don't get me wrong. You're still going to be trash at some point. Before you get good, you got to get bad. You know what I mean? That's just how it goes. Seeds grow in darkness, not light. So you're doing good. You're coming to the gym. Let's say we start with 20-minute sessions. Then, all right, cool. Now you did like 18 minutes today. You didn't finish on the Stairmaster. You come back the next day, 20 minutes. Come back the next day, 19 minutes. You come back the next day, 20 minutes. Next day, 22 minutes. Next day, 23 minutes. Next day, 20 minutes. Next day, 22 minutes. Like, you kind of like, you fluctuate like this because the intensity is just enough to push you, but not so much that you can't sustain it for a long enough period of time to make that baseline, to make that peak, that dip, not that peak, that dip. So when you dip in performance, or when you fall, or when you fall off, your fall off isn't necessarily a fall off to a deep depth. Like, it's not a dark, endless pit. You're literally falling back, like literally like half a step, like that. You're literally taking a step back, like you trip, because your foundation is literally so much above. You know what I mean? You want to put yourself in that position. And the easiest way to do that is to implement the compound effect into small little methods and tasks for your big long-term goals. But I hope this video did provide you guys with a little bit of insight. I originally wanted to make this like a listed video, but I feel like this one singular concept within itself, if you just sit with it long enough, is the only thing you really need. I didn't want to add more fluff than that. And I feel like I got pretty in depth on the concept. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.